How's it going, everyone? I want to talk a little bit about how, in no way, is silver near its peak in popularity, in value, and price. Um, I was watching a video by Silverfish VT, and it was called "When Silver Peaks in Popularity, How Will We Know?" And it's a great topic, a great title, and I just wanted to kind of share my thoughts on that. And now, silver is nowhere near its peak. In the past, silver was much more prevalent in everyone's mind and also in everyone's possession. And it wasn't that long ago that silver was used as money and everyone was aware of the value of silver. Now, they might not have viewed it in the way that a lot of people in the collecting or stacking or inflation hedging communities um, look at silver today, but everyone knew that silver was money. And even today, silver and gold are money. So most people have that confused, but the fact is, silver and gold are money. The currencies that we're all using in day to day transactions are not money. And they derive some of their value from the fact that we're able to purchase silver and gold with those currencies. Um, if they lost that ability, that would be the destruction of the currency. Now, your average person might not care, they might not be interested in buying precious metals, but as soon as it was not accepted in exchange for precious metals, it would be a snowball effect where if you were unable to use currency to purchase gold, um, then someone selling oil might refuse to sell their oil for the currency because they were unable to purchase gold. Then everyone who needs, oil would start to refuse the currency because they're unable to purchase oil in it, and it would immediately lose its value. So one of the main strengths of the currency is its ability to purchase any goods and any services. And a big part of that ability is maintained at this point by force and threats of force, coercion. So, we have the military. The military accepts the currency for their services, and that's a strong piece of the backing of our currency. So, the fact that our currency buys gold and buys oil gives its strength. So, the value is really nothing other than what it can be exchanged for. And historically, gold and silver have been money, and they still are. And when you look at these foreign exchange rates, a big part of that, I believe, is their convertibility to gold and to oil. So we're basically measuring how much of the currency it takes to purchase an ounce of gold versus a different currency. So that's where the strengths and weaknesses in the currency come from and how they're measured against each other. So they're still held to a gold standard in the degree that we're looking at the exchange rates between how much of the currency it takes to buy an ounce of gold, and that's how we measure the strength of any particular currency. So, we see inflation because they just continue to create money, or I should say, to continue to create currency, which, because of the delusion and the inflation and the amount of available currency, it causes the amount of those units that it takes to buy that set amount of gold to increase. Anyway, so I think that that's really where the ultimate popularity or the ultimate rise in awareness of the metals is going to be, because I think at some point we're going to come back to where gold and silver are money and people recognize their value as such. And the day will come where no amount of currency is going to buy gold, and no amount of currency is going to buy silver. So hopefully that day is far off, and it probably is. But whether it's 5 years, 50 years, 100 years, that day is coming where your digital, credit card, computer money, your bitcoins, your Federal Reserve paper notes, none of that stuff is going to be able to be exchanged for precious metals, for oil, for food. You'll be able to barter and trade those things. So you won't be able to buy precious metals with currency at some point in the future. They can basically keep creating currencies infinitely, and as soon as people wake up to that fact, they're going to refuse to accept them. And as soon as they're not accepted in exchange for every good and service, that's the end of them. So you won't be able to buy gold and silver. You'll be able to trade it. You'll be able to work in exchange for it. You'll be able to, trade off other commodities, other services in exchange for them, and vice versa. But that's where the ultimate popularity is going to come from, because it wasn't long ago that gold and silver were the most desirable and most sought after commodities because they were money. And that's still the case, just they've done a really good job of keeping people unaware to the fact. And when they started with the paper currencies and getting away from the silver and away from the gold, they came out with the silver notes, and it was, sold to everyone as a matter of convenience and practicality. And it was just as good as silver because, you could go into any bank and exchange that and get your silver. And over time, people have come to accept and become used to the paper currency. They stopped the redeemability in precious metals, and people accept it as money. So it's pretty interesting. And also, they have a monopoly on the currency and on the medium of exchange by requiring us all to use the currency. And that didn't used to be the case. It was more, the production of the currency was more a service that they provided instead of a means of taxation, where now it's actually a way for them to take our savings by inflation and producing more of the currency and diluting what we have, the value of what we've been able to save. In the past, it wasn't a means of taxation or confiscation. It was more a service that they provided by giving us coinage to facilitate trade. They made the coins, but the money was a set weight and set purity of precious metal, and they didn't require that you use the particular currency of the country. Foreign coins used to circulate right alongside US coins. So whether it was, let's say a Morgan dollar or a Mexican or Spanish coin, they'll circulate right alongside each other because the value was derived from the weight and purity of the metal. And there were even private mints or private currencies, private tokens, where people would put out gold coins that had the standard weight and measurement, and they would circulate right alongside the government currency, and there was really no problem with that. I don't think it was restricted, and it was because the money is a set measure as opposed to something that everyone has been told is worth something or worth a certain amount or must be accepted. So there was no need to really restrict the currency because it was honest money. So, an ounce of silver is an ounce of silver, whether whoever's stamp is on it. Anyways, so I think also, the industrial aspect, there's a lot of potential there with industrial demand and new uses for silver. Silver is an element, so there's really no replacing. In some applications, they can find other things to use in place of silver, but if something requires silver, silver's an element, so they're going to have to use that. But, oh, did my camera stop working? So, anyways, the the industrial demand is a big aspect, and right now that's a huge portion of the silver demand. And if there's a new application that requires silver, that could be huge and drive the interest and price and everything else through the roof. Also popularity. I mean, if it becomes the cool thing to do with coin collecting or precious metal stacking or they were talking about in the Silverfish video about, the YouTube videos and the popularity. It could catch on. So, I mean, if that becomes the next cool thing to do and everybody's, showing off their silver, that could be a huge impact in the market and the popularity and the value. I don't think that's really going to happen. And one thing I see is the internet, where I could show you a coin here on YouTube, or you could Google it and find it. And I think that's a big part of what happened to like trading cards and comic books and everything. Was like when I was a kid, if someone had a, certain baseball card or something, it was really cool to look at it, see it, be able to read what was on it. And the only way you were going to see that is if someone had it, whether it's the, local shop or one of your friends. But that was really cool. Whereas now I can just pull that up on my phone, in 10 seconds and look at it and check it out. Now it's not the same thing, but I think that's really cut into the, the collecting aspect and kind of killed that hobby. So I think some of that's probably true with coin collecting also, where people can just, look at them. It's not the same, but and most people are so, hung up on their phones and their games and their, whatever they're watching on TV or something. I'm not sure if collecting or, investing is going to be the next big move. But regardless, it is possible, everybody could wake up to the value of metals. And I think we've seen some of that with, Ron Paul, or with even shows like Pawn Stars or the Garasopa, Silver Recovery, Gold Rush. Some of these things have kind of brought it back to the mainstream to some degree. But I think what it's really going to be is if they keep on, just creating currency, eventually the inflation is going to get to the point where, the whole thing's just going to fall apart. And that's when we'll see the real awakening to the fact of what is and what isn't money, and the ultimate popularity, if you want to call it that, or the ultimate pricing or value, which will be that it is money and can't be bought with currency. So that's just my 2 cents. Really interesting topic there. I'd like to hear your comments. Thanks for watching.